What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today's video we're going to be talking about the finale, King in Black, number 5 by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, and we'll also kind of by proxy talk a little bit about Venom number 34 by Donny Cates and Yvonne Coelho. And in this video, what we're going to learn is how Eddie Brock was able to escape the Hive and why he is so ultra mega powered up and is now able to put the King in Black on the run, and more importantly, how this miniseries and Donny Cates' entire run on Venom up to this point has set up the return of Flash Thompson. We're going to talk about all that and more right now, but first, let's hit that intro.
Murder wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple eyes. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Okay, so the main thing you really need to know here is that in Venom number 34, where last we seen Eddie was still locked away in the Hive in the clutches of the King in Black himself, Null, we do learn that Null did try to kill Eddie a second time, only this particular time Eddie is not actually Eddie. He is in fact a codex. He is not real. This is a manifestation within the Hive of Eddie Brock. The real Eddie Brock is still laying on a hospital bed with Dr. Reed Richards, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and everyone else for that matter trying to figure out how to save his life. It's not until Null actually tries to kill the Codex version of Eddie Brock that things really start to kick off. Because at this point we know, as of King in Black number 4, the mysterious power in the universe, the mysterious god of light that is Null's opposite, has been revealed to be Captain Universe, and Captain Universe, as of King in Black number 4, has already melded with the real Eddie Brock. And roughly about the time where Null is throwing Eddie Brock off a cliff yet again, and hopefully this time not sending him careening for the next 3 or 4 issues, Eddie's other, the Venom symbiote, finally is able to make contact with him, and they are able to come back together again, now fused with the power of Captain Universe. This is what allows Eddie Brock to essentially escape the Hive and turning himself into a giant kaiju version of himself. This is actually a throwback to the Venom Incorporated series where we saw something very similar happen, because once again, as you are in the Hive, you're able to connect with all the different versions of all the different symbiotes across the Hive, and therefore you're able to trade information, communicate information, and also remember things, or maybe regain abilities that you either once had, or another symbiote once had, or another wielder of a symbiote once used. Now, while in this and while he's running roughshod, this is kind of where things get a little weird, because, you know, it kind of sets up the whole return of Flash Thompson. We know that Flash Thompson has been dead as of Amazing Spider-Man number 800. He died at the hands of Red Goblin and has been dead ever since, though we learned previously through the pages of Donny Cates' Venom run that codices are able to retain information and knowledge about previous symbiote wielders. We saw this when the Maker introduced this concept to Eddie Brock, shining this light on what could possibly be, and we even saw Eddie Brock use the Flash Thompson Codex to become Agent Venom temporarily. He was even able to communicate with Flash Thompson on some level, and we now know, as you fast forward to Absolute Carnage, we learned what happened when Carnage was able to get a hold of the codexes of other people. This actually goes back to earlier pre-Absolute Carnage, Donny Cates' Venom number 7 and 8, where a piece of the Grendel symbiote was bonded with Cletus's dead body and revived him. And we see here that apparently Eddie has put a bug in Flash Thompson's ear, essentially telling him that you remember what happened to Cletus when he got a dragon symbiote. And this is being brought up because Flash Thompson's codex has transformed into an anti-Venom version of the dragon symbiotes that Null likes to employ. And as Flash Thompson was not alive at the time this was all going on, Venom tells him, hey, you should go see for yourself. This leads to Flash going to the cemetery where he's buried back in Arlington National, and he crashes into his own grave. And towards the end of the comic, we see that his hand comes bursting out from the ground below, basically letting us know that he was able to resurrect himself. Getting the codex of the anti-venom symbiote was just enough to revive his fallen body. Now, of course, while this is going on, we know that in King in Black, Venom arrives with the Venom symbiote now empowered with Captain Universe, which is in a way a symbiote in and of itself. At this particular point in Venom, we see that Eddie is literally leaping and falling through the skyline of New York when he's blasted with the power. However, we saw in King in Black #4, it seemed like he got the power while he was laying in a hospital bed.
If you're confused as to what all was actually going on here, what's actually happening is that when Eddie busts out of the hive, he's still a codex, and the symbiote is the one that's actually being hit with the power, the unipower from Captain Universe, and then the symbiote is carrying that power back over to Eddie Brock. Hence why, if you're kind of reading through it fast, you would be forgiven if you were confused as to what the hell was going on exactly.
This leads to Eddie falling, presumably, to his death as the Venom symbiote washes away from him and the Captain Universe power overtakes him. This makes him a god tier level threat, and it's crazy to even think about. Captain Universe is literally one of the most powerful entities, if not the most powerful entity in the Marvel Comics universe. It's not even close. His abilities are freaking ridiculous. He is literally able to manipulate matter on the atomic level and can do pretty much whatever he wants. For all intents and purposes, he's a reality warper. Not only that, but his own powers, the powers of Captain Universe, which is known as the Unipower, is able to enhance the abilities of people who already possess superhuman capabilities. We've seen this in terms when Spider-Man, Hulk, and various other characters have possessed the Captain Universe power. Now, everything else is just wild and out of control from there on out, because at this point, we see that everyone is pretty much on the back foot. Everyone is kind of getting themselves together as Silver Surfer pulls up and kind of creates his own version of All Black from his surfboard. This is where things get a bit more interesting to me, because this is where we actually are we're no longer in Venom #34, we're now in King in Black proper by this point, and we see the Silver Surfer, after having encountered Null in the pages of Silver Surfer Black, also by Donny Cates. I love the fact that Silver Surfer is not all that blown away by what Null can do. He's seen other, powerful entities in the Marvel Comics universe, and more importantly, he went toe-to-toe with Null himself in that comic, and though it didn't quite go the way I think anybody was actually thinking it would go, it was one of those situations where Silver Surfer has had time to actually prepare for this battle. And of course, Earth's mightiest heroes have come together. They are no longer nullified, and they pull up to join the fight as well. However, they're not going to join the fight against Null. They're just going to try and hold off everything else, because Eddie Brock has now arrived, and he has the Unipower. He is completely empowered as Captain Universe, and it is time for him to take on Null. And Null tries to pretend as though he doesn't really give a shit about what's going on here. He doesn't care that Eddie Brock has been empowered, that, his arch nemesis has chosen the loser in every fight that they have ever had against one another, someone who Null has clapped on multiple different occasions and has even killed on another occasion. Now, that said, Eddie Brock has become so much more than what he originally was. This man has become so powerful, now embodying the Unipower, that he is able to summon not only Silver Surfer's surfboard, now in the form of a giant claymore, but also he can summon Mjolnir to himself, and he brings them together to create this very metal-looking symbiote battle axe, which is just insane to think about. And this actually puts Null on the run. The reason why is because Null knows that at this point it's over. Captain Universe can handle him. Captain Universe itself can solo Null. Now, we have seen in the past that, due to the Thor the God Butcher story arc and was it Gore the God Bomb story arc, we know that Null has technically defeated the Unipower in the past, though it wasn't so much a win as much as it was a double KO. Well, now going back into it, we see that yes, with the Unipower, Eddie is chopping off symbiote dragon heads left and right. There's really nothing that Null can put against him. He even disintegrates the Necro Sword All Black, grabbing Null by the throat meat and essentially choke slamming him all the way to hell. Even when Null tries to bring one of his symbiote Celestials, his his nullified Celestials to take on Eddie. Eddie does the same to the Celestials as he's done to the symbiote dragons, lopping their heads off and going on about his business. He even does to Null what Null did to him, stabbing him with the symbiote axe and essentially ripping Null's symbiote garb off of him and flinging him careening down to the streets below, much the way Null did to him, only Null didn't fall for 3.5 issues before he hit the ground. That said, it's not over there. They have to get rid of Null. They have to take him off the board and off the playing field completely, and Eddie knows the only way to do that is to put Null someplace which would be the absolute worst place that he'd ever want to be, and that appears to be in the center of the sun. Eddie uses the unipower to fly them directly into the sun, showering Null's face with unipower light energy, burning Null's face to basically make him look like Spawn without the mask, and then drags him into the sun, disintegrating him entirely before the unipower summons him back to Earth. Now, of course, the effects of everything going on, the symbiotes, they all start recoiling. Everything was nullified, is no longer nullified anymore. The dome surrounding the Earth is now gone. Sunlight can now come raining down in, which is probably one of the most well-timed things that could have ever happened, because at this particular point, the vampires of the Vampire Nation know that Null has been defeated, and now they are ready to turn on Blerd, because, well, what better opportunity to take out one of their greatest nemesis than when he's already distracted by what was going on with Null. And when this happens, it also kind of is played for comedic laughs that while Blerd is allowing the vampires to overrun him, he knows something that they don't, and is that it's actually daytime right now. There was no light because the symbiote shroud over the Earth was blocking it all away, but just so happens it is very much daytime right now, and as Blerd is being overrun, the vampires are all turned to cinders. And of course, Thor and Silver Surfer are able to get their respective weapons back as they both kind of muse over whether or not everything is over, and it kind of is, and it kind of isn't. You see, you still have to deal with the issue of Dylan Brock. Dylan is still very much possessed by the power of Null. There's a piece of Null in him, something that Null told Eddie as he was killing him. And of course, Eddie, he has one last task, and that is to use the unipower to rip out the last piece of Null's influence within Dylan and destroys it summarily. But when he does so, the unipower leaves him because it's now the unipower's opportunity to go somewhere else where it feels it is needed. Now, without necessarily regurgitating lines from the opening of Arrow, which Donny Cates is very dangerously close to almost doing, yes, Eddie has become someone else. He has become something else. He's become something new. He is, as he so eloquently put back in the pages of Venom number 34, yes, he is the comeback king, the man of 1,000 second chances, but he's become something even more than that. He has defeated the King in Black. And though I'm not particularly fond of the movie Chronicles of Riddick, one thing is held true here. You keep what you kill. He destroyed the King in Black. He has saved the Hive. The Hive is now singing his praises. They are free of Null's influence, and Eddie has an opportunity to do something incredibly special because now he is truly the King in Black. And this is something that I talked about even well before this finale, even going back to the days of Absolute Carnage, even before that, that if anyone is going to become the King in Black, a lot of people wanted to believe it was going to be Dylan Brock, and I was willing to entertain those ideas because it did make sense at the time, but I honestly was always more in the camp of it being Eddie Brock ending his story as the King in Black and becoming this all-powerful entity. We already kind of were teased this by Donny Cates himself, saying that Eddie will be forever changed by the end of King in Black, and he has been. He has become, essentially, he's become Null. He has taken Null's place. He now has Null's power. The symbiotes listen and heed what he desires now, and it is now his place to return to the Hive, and who knows what's next. We won't know until Venom number 200, which will be coming out shortly. And this is going to be the last issue written by Donny Cates, as he's going to be moving on to another title and other stories that he has planned. And of course, he's still doing Thor, so that is also a thing. But something tells me that we're going to see Eddie kind of get sunsetted for a while. I think we're actually going to see Venom no longer in play for the foreseeable future, at least until enough time has passed where Eddie can be brought back in. I think you could probably look at this in the same way that we looked at Ghost Ghost Rider. Up until recently, oddly enough, with the King in Black Ghost Rider tie-in, but for a while, Johnny Blaze was kind of sunsetted. When he became the King of Hell, he didn't really have any stories going on. I mean, he was a part of other Ghost Rider stories, but he was never really the 100% main character, and I feel like if Venom does come back, that's kind of how it's going to be. I think we're actually going to see a new Venom come into play, hence why I think we saw the resurrection of Flash Thompson in Venom number 34. I have a sneaky suspicion Agent Venom will return, and we will see Eddie kind of sporadically through Agent Venom's story. But I mean, I'll be brutally honest, I enjoyed this story for what it was. I do feel like King in Black ran way too long, at least in terms of release schedule, and so many tie-ins that just didn't have anything to do with anything. And I know I've been doing this for a while. I know not every tie-in book is supposed to mean anything to the greater story, but I feel like there were so many tie-in books, and then of course earlier on with Venom, as he's literally falling for, I'm probably being hyperbolic here, but I want to say it was about roughly 3 issues of Venom and King in Black where he was just falling when Null chucked him off the top of a roof in the first issue of King in Black. And I just feel like the wrong things were dragged out and the right things weren't given enough time. Now, overall, my interest and excitement for this story dramatically fell off as the story went on, and I'm glad it's over now. And I'm not gonna say it's a bad story. I am just gonna say I think it was a good story, a great story that just didn't end in any way that I was particularly happy with. And who knows, my opinion on this may change over time. But that said, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share this video all over the internet and with all your friends so that they can know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to the King in Black and Venom. Gots to go get him. Also, on your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about King in Black number 5 and the series as a whole. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.